Hey guys, welcome back to Beach and Fishing. Paul here with you again today. And today I'm going to, let's have some fun. Beach and Fishing is my site all about fishing, or where I discuss fishing, talk about fishing products, items, me going fishing, so on and so forth. I'm by no means professional, but I love it and have been doing it for quite a long time. So why not share the experience, I say. Hey, so what we're going to do today is we're going to have some fun. We're going to look at fishing knots. Now, throughout my entire fishing career, I'll show you, there was a knot I was taught when I first learned to fish. I've used that knot for absolutely everything. I've used it for, if there's a type of fishing that can be done, apart from ice fishing or fly fishing, I've never used it for those because I've never, haven't had the joy of doing those. But everything else, there's one knot that I use for everything, which I'll show you. There's lots and lots of different fishing knots out there. There's another one which I use when I'm out, if I want to paternoster rig, or if I want, multiple strands and I want to be able to change things quickly, which you'll probably look at that and go, well, that's not a knot, but it's what I use. And then the third option is the one that I use if I'm tying braid to mono. So they're the three knots that I use. I use those three exclusively. Again, I'd love your comments below if you want to refer me to other pages or other sites that do different knots, or if you do different knots, you use these ones or whatever. So what I'm going to do today, though, is rather than try and fiddle around with some tiny little bits of fishing line, I have a rope and I have a shackle. Now, the shackle will be playing the part of the hook and the rope will be playing the part of the fishing line. I will tie one with fishing line in a minute so you can see how that works. I have to put my glasses on to do that. But effectively what I'm doing here is, this is the knot that I use if I'm tying swivels. I use it on lures. I use it on hooks. And I think that's about it. Probably tied some other things to line in my time, but they're the three things. They're the, if I'm using any of those for any sort of rig, that's what I use. So if I'm using this rig here, which is my normal leader rig, which is the rig that I use for just about everything as well, you can see I've got some line, a swivel, and a hook. They're all tied on by this knot. So let's have a look at the knot. So again, my swivel has been the hook. This has been the line. Thread it through, obviously. All I do then is I just twist and twist and twist. Some people will tell you to twist the line around like the loose part around the line rather than twist the whole line, because that reduces twist in the surf or whatever. I've always just done it this way. I've tried doing the other way for a while. I just got lazy and didn't bother. So once I've got a few twists there, what you'll end up is a little loop there between the hook and the line. Just run that back through. This is going to work as well on rope from my tests before. And then that just slides all the way down to give you your knot. So that's all you do. That's the only way that I've ever tied a fishing knot. You can see that's nice and smooth. As I say, with rope, it's got that little bit, doesn't flick in as well, but it does on a fishing line. And all you do is just snip that bit off, and there is your line. As I say, I've used that for every type of fishing that I've done, including deep sea fishing, chasing big fish, including trolling out the back for mackerel and stuff like that. This line has never let me down. The only time it's ever snapped is if I cut it too close there, it'll come out, or if the line snaps. So I'll just show you that very quickly again. If I can untie it. So again, your hook and your line, take it through, put it round. And as I say, some people say you should just do it round that way instead of twisting it, because that stops the line inside twisting as much. As I say, I've always done twisting the other way. That line then goes back through there, pull it tight, and that is your knot. That is how I've done everything. First knot, I don't even know what they're called, to be honest, and I deliberately didn't research it because I didn't want to names, because I didn't want to mess up my own thing. But again, if I do it through a normal line and sink, I have to put my glasses on, I'll try and do it closer to the thing. So that lines up through there, bring that round. I always just twist the hook or the swivel or whatever I'm working with. It's a bit harder if you've already got that hooked up. So you can see that's got a nice on there. That line then goes back through the eyelet and then Try and keep it as straight as you can when you pull it, because that way it just pulls down. Pull it tight, and there is your line attached to the hook. So that's the simplest way. Then you would get some scissors, you would chop that back to around there, and that is your hook attached. And again, I've got a swivel on the other end. It's attached exactly the same way. That is, as I keep saying, that is the hook I use for absolutely everything. Okay, the second one I do is on my paternoster rigs. I don't know if you call them paternoster rigs. I've always called them a drop rig, but it's a version of a paternoster. The paternosters, I think most people do the hook, the knot in the middle there, which I actually can't do. I've tried so many times. But see down the bottom here, this swivel, this sinker, I can remove that quite easily and replace it with another one. That is by simply just doing a little loop on the end, and the loop, this one will shock you. You get the end of your line, which is, I'll do it on this end because that end's got knots and stuff. Didn't prepare that very well, did I? So all I do that like that, spin it around, tie it through. I put hooks on things like that. So again, if I wanted to put my hook on, I would just loop the hook through the line there, around over the top, and there my hook sits on the line. I use that if I'm deep sea fishing, or sometimes I have used it on lures occasionally. If I haven't got any snap swivels, or I don't want to use a snap swivel, I'll actually put that on the end of a line and put lures. And I've caught fish doing that. So again, to show you that, this one doesn't come apart as easy as the others, but again, to show you that. So all I do is get to the end of the line, put a loop in it, you can see the loop there, and just tie it around. Just spin it around there, back through, and tie myself that knot. And that way, as I say, I could loop, assuming that's a swivel or a hook, around, sits that way. So the example of that here, as I say, is on the paternoster rig I did. So if I snip that off, so I can show you on the line. So again, bring the line up close to the camera. I just bring that around like so. So I've got that loop. Do it a bit bigger so it's easy for you to see. And then I just run that loop, put it over, back through itself, as if you're tying it at the start of a shoelace. And I know I've messed that up. I've got my hands on the wrong side. I'll start that again. So round that way like so. Spin that around and then just put it back through over itself. Pull it tight. So as I say, it's just like a start of a fishing line. And then from there, I can just attach a sinker. Through that goes, through the little eyelet there, and around. Sinker sits on. Sinker's too light, just talk to myself. Sinker's too heavy, sinker's too light, just swap it that way. Same with the hook. So that hook is actually knotted on, so if I cut that off, again, do my little around knot like that, bring it round in itself, back underneath, just make a certain, hook it back through. That pulls tight. Then again, all I do, loop the hook through there, hook around, and the hook sits on there, like so. I have never had them break. I've used them all over the place. Some people will say, worry about that with the presentation. Obviously, I normally snip that little bit off. Oh, snip the whole thing. Normally I snip that bit off, but the hook sits on the end there, like so. If I put the hook back through on this one, if I can find it, I don't even know where it went. It's great TV, isn't it? I don't even know where that hook went. It went flying off somewhere, and it has totally disappeared on me. But anyway, have another one here somewhere. Where's my other hook? I don't have another hook. What am the big one? So again, just if I cut that off, so I want to change that hook, loop that through, Put that on, and it just sits there. Again, if I want to swap that over, I just unloop that and off I go. So that's the second loop knot I use. So as I say, all I do is just simply spin that around itself. You end up with a loop at the end. Look, to be honest, whichever way you do that gives you a loop at the end that you're most comfortable with, do. As I keep saying, that simple one for me, just over itself, back through, has never ever let me down with a hook or a sinker. I've never lost a fish because of that knot, and it is the most basic knot. The reason I started doing that is because, again, some people used to fish out in boats, they had all these fancy knots, and this just took me 2 seconds to do. So that is why I do that. Now, the third one I want to show you, I need a different bit of rope for that one. The third knot I use is for attaching braid to mono. So this will be the mono, this will be the braid. So the braid's usually smaller, I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's just so that you can see. Now, on YouTube, there is thousands and thousands of really good knots. There's an RG knot, which people have done them, tested to, super strength, and it's never broken. Again, I use this one because it was just one that I learnt, and it's quick and easy to do, especially if you're out in a boat and it's moving around, or you're on the beach and it's night and it's sandy or whatever. I use braid on my reels, and I like to have a mono leader on both sides of my swivel. So assuming that this is the mono, so I get the mono like that, then I take the braid up through that loop, so I got the loop there, and then all I do, and this one with line, it gets a bit tricky because the line moves around everywhere, and it doesn't always sit as well as this does. Just wrap that around. I'm going to do a bit more because I want to show you. So I take that out a bit more, take it around, and then I go back over itself. So around, back, and around, back, and around, back, and then back through the original hole that it come through. Pull it tight, and you'll see the advantage of that is that it's pulled tight relatively flat. I mean, rope obviously is a lot wider, but it pulls relatively flat, so it casts a lot better. This is an option that I've got where that's mono and braid joined. The focus won't pick up too well on that because I'm behind it, but you can see that's relatively flat. Now again, I've used that knot on all manner of fishing, from deep sea fishing to fishing off the beach to fishing on the kayak. I've never had that break. Sometimes you will find, for some reason, I haven't quite worked this out, I think it's if you don't do enough runs back, that when you pull it, just pull straight apart. That happens. And I think that, and at the beginning, that was because I wasn't doing that back loop. So to show you again, have that circle, that loop there, bring your braid up in between that circle. That's your mono, this is your braid. Then wrap it round and round and round and round. If you just put that back through now, that's when it sometimes comes apart. So I always go back over the top, and since I've been doing that, I haven't had that problem. Back over the top, back over the top, back through that loop that we started, pull it tight. You'll have to lick it sometimes and just make sure you pull it straight, and then that stays tight. Snip off the end, and that is your braid connected to your mono. As I say, I don't think it's the fanciest one, and some guys I've watched on YouTube do ones that are just amazing, and to be honest, almost you can hardly tell. I watched one guy do it, and you could hardly see that there was where the knot was. It was incredible. I just kept trying, couldn't quite get it right. So that's how I do it, and as I keep saying, I've never had that break. So I'll demonstrate it here on my braid and mono, for those of you who like to sit on the line. So there's my mono line. So again, I've just put it over. I then take my braid up through that loop. Oh, if I could hold on to it. Through that loop, and then again around. Doesn't behave itself as well as it does with the rope. Around and around and around, and then back around, back over where it's come from. So back around, back over the top, and over, and over. See, braid This doesn't behave as well as rope. It'd be a lot easier if it was just like rope. And then when I get the end, back through that loop. That's your critical point. Back through that loop. Pull it tight. And there it is connected together. And again, just snip off the bits you don't need. Braid doesn't cut as easy as mono. Try not to snip the whole thing like I did before. So just snip that in those two spots. And there you've got that connection. I mean, obviously I would cut that down a little bit further if I was using that for real, but that's how they join. And as I say, I've used that connection for connecting braid to mono on every bit of braid I've had. The only problem with that one is if your mono is really thick, if you're doing a really thick leader. So I tend to use a mono line that's as close to the size of the braid that I've got. So say for example here I've got a 30-pound braid here, which is quite small. I've also got here some 20-pound, 40-pound leader, which is quite thick. I wouldn't connect that straight to that. The knot ends up too big because the mono is too big. I would actually use some fluorocarbon or something to connect to that on that side of the swivel. Then on the other side of the swivel, I would use my big leader. So that's probably the only thing to be aware of with that is if your mono is too thick, it's not going to attach to the braid as well as what it would for the smaller one. So you might, I know it's a bit fiddly, but you might need two different types of mono if you want to really use a big thick leader between your swivel, from your swivel down to your hook or whatever you're using it for. Okay, guys, I hope that was clear. I mean, it's a bit hard to get all the fingers and everything right in the demonstration. If you can't see what I'm doing, please comment below and I'll try and shoot them again. As I said before, if you're watching this within YouTube, please subscribe to my channel and comment any things you do differently. If you're watching this in the post, I'll do a very quick post for this so you can, I can just I'll do some very quick instructions of what I use. But they're the three knots that I use. I don't use any other knots. There are others where you go up over and then around the top of the hook and then bring it back through the hook, which is similar to where you're just looping it through. There's others, especially with the braid and the mono. There's quite a few different ones of that as I say have been tested. I've never seen the one I do tested to extra strength, but the RG knots, if you get online, you can see them. They're a bit more complicated from memory, but they'll do the trick. That one for me has always done the trick, and we went out recently on the boat and I caught a kingfish, which was about, I think it was close to 10 or 15 kilo. Very big fish, very big fight. It did not break that knot that I had on there, and that was, I think it was 30-pound braid onto, I think, about 20-pound fluorocarbon, and then a swivel, and then I think it was 40-pound leader on top of that. So the line was definitely strong enough. It's just come down the knot and it worked fine. Thanks for that, guys. Hope that was helpful, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.